With major projects being completed or underway, more and more investment opportunities are being presented. Some tend to think that there are fixed sectors where investment opportunities present themselves, but there are so many untraditional sectors being unveiled. We have major attractive startups and also venues where there is a need for major cash injections. But what are the sources of funding? In sophisticated economies, those are many. And now we are seeing greater attention being paid to the capital market here at home. This offers a number of funding possibilities so as to enlarge the ownership base, as well as give greater expansion and growth opportunities for companies offering their shares. Lately, this is a topic that has received highest level attention in the country, and the upcoming months are foreseen to be turning points. Good evening. Welcome to the Business Insider. I'm Ayman Salah. Our weekly program tackles events affecting economies and business, and we aim to bring you the inside story. Welcome back. Let's start with some news. Egypt's biggest private sector education consortium is in the pipeline. Two major private sector education investment companies will build and run a 2.5 billion Egyptian pound private university in New Damietta through their joint venture. The New Urban Communities Authority has allocated a 58-fidam plot of land in New Damietta on which to build the facility. Both companies said they want to create the largest private education platform in the country, including from kindergarten to 12th grade education, with two of them to open next month in West Cairo. A university is also set to open its doors for students in the 2023 to 2024 academic year, when phase one of the project will be complete. This will include 16 faculties and is poised to serve 25,000 students locally and regionally, with a focus on underserved governorates that are in need of quality private sector education. Now for the second news item. Some of us will remember the days when there were regular blackouts, electricity blackouts. That was around 9 years ago. Now the country is discussing the prospect of extending the capacity of our existing link with the Jordanian capital to increase the current electricity link to 2 gigawatts from the current 450 megawatts. That's according to the Egyptian Electricity Transmission Company's chairman. He said that a delegation visited Jordan and that an international consultant was contracted to conduct the necessary technical studies for the extension. The new capacity will then feed into Syria and Iraq. The Egypt-Jordan electricity link is part of a larger project to link Egypt's grid to Libya, Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and even Turkey. Those are called by the Jordanian government the 8 countries electric interconnection project. Egypt's energy success story turned the table from devastating blackouts to having a surplus of electricity generation capacity that, combined with the natural gas findings, positions it to be a regional energy hub. We'll be back. Welcome back. You're watching the Business Insider. Tonight I have the pleasure to be joined by Mr. Ahmed Abou Saad. He's a member of the board of directors of the Egyptian Stock Exchange. A pleasure to have you with us here tonight, and congratulations for your re-election into the board of directors.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you. I'm so happy to be with you tonight.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Let's watch this report. It talks about listings in the Egyptian stock market, and the potential that what we should expect to be happening in the near future. And then let's start our discussion.
For a long time, there were calls to boost the capital market and give it the depth and attraction that it deserves. Needless to stress on the importance of stock markets in free economies. On this note, Egypt plans to take the first steps early next year towards selling a stake in the state-owned company behind the new administrative capital. This could be the nation's biggest ever initial public offering, or IPO. The administrative capital for urban development was created to oversee the multi-billion-dollar project and has major assets, as well as a big portfolio of land and projects, according to the chairman of the company, Ahmed Zaki Abedin. Currently, the company is in the planning stage and is expected to start choosing advisors and setting the size of the offering early next year. There are different scenarios in the offering. The first is to have the listing take place on the exchange, the Egyptian exchange, and the second is to have dual listing locally as well as internationally. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was the first to announce such plans at a major event inaugurating development projects. He said that the company has around $6.4 billion in liquid assets and as much as $260 billion in total holdings. The last major IPO was the country's telecom company in 2005 when it raised $318 million. The new administrative capital is one of many mega projects launched in Egypt since 2014, part of a major effort to restructure the economy. About 3 years ago, 23 state-owned firms were identified for listing on the stock exchange. Only one has been offered so far, with the global pandemic contributing to delays. Egypt's benchmark stock index mostly underperformed regional and global peers this year, partly reflecting investors' appetite for the nation's fixed income over its equities.
Welcome back to the Business Insider. Let me reintroduce my dear guest, Mr. Ahmed Abou Saad, board member of the Egyptian Stock Exchange. Once again, a pleasure having you on the show here with me tonight.
It's always a pleasure to be with you.
All right, let's start with your expectations regarding the listing of the new administrative capital urban development company.
Well, actually, let's start by that such an announcement was like a very strong message to be delivered to the public. Is that not only that the new administrative capital will be used by public enterprises, by companies, by authorities, but also, or by the people that will live there, but also you can be part of it by just investing and being a shareholder and participating in this big project. As we heard about the size of the company, definitely it's very huge. And as we are aware, like the public acceptance to the idea of the new administrative capital was tremendous. So definitely the Egyptian people will be so excited to be shareholders and to participate in such IPO. However, the IPO is like we have to look at two sides of the table, if you can say. First, what does the IPO means for the administrative capital company? The second thing, what does it mean for the investors? And the third thing, what does both sides mean to the whole economy?
Right.
So the first thing, as we know, like for the company itself being listed and to run for an IPO, this will definitely provide it with ample liquidity, if you can say. Definitely, like they will be cashing their future earnings and future operation, which is a very good thing. Also, it's a source of funding for expansion and for continue to grow.
It's basically cashing your future earnings.
Exactly.
But sooner.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And also intensifying your future earnings, because sometimes if you need cash to spend on future capex and future expansion, then you collect the money now so that you expand. Instead of making, for example, 100x, you'll make 200, you'll make 300, because now you are expanding your operation.
Right.
So this is from the standpoint of the company itself.
And also another thing is that you're diversifying your sources of funding.
Exactly.
Instead of relying on banks or on certain payments, you get different sources of funding from the stock market.
Exactly.
And other,
on your equity
Right.
level, on your equity level, not only as debt and not only as cash from operation from the different
Exactly.
developers.
Right.
Definitely. So definitely now you are enlarging your equity base. So definitely you are much more powerful. You have your muscles now to do things your way, not forced or not in cash squeeze or something. But definitely we know that the company is not is like cash rich, if we can say
Right.
so. So from the side of the investors, as we speak,
can I interrupt you here?
please.
Also on the company level, it will also be the biggest initial public offering in Egypt's history after the 2005
Yeah.
IPO, or is there a bigger
This is
one?
not for the company. This is for the economy,
For-
which I will cover.
Right,
on
okay.
so
Apologies.
No, it's okay. No, I mean, like for the company, like it's definitely something remarkable to be the largest IPO. But I mean, like, what does the listing in the stock market and going into an IPO will benefit the company operation?
Right.
But from the investor point of view, definitely everybody was excited about the new city, but maybe not everyone can buy a unit there. Maybe I live in Alexandria, so I will not benefit from this city.
But you can buy a share.
Exactly. So and also like we're trying to if we can say, to finish the myth that investing is only for businessmen, for high net worth, for companies. No, actually the IPO makes what we say democratizing investments. Is that everyone can invest according to his financial capacity.
It's a very important point.
It
yeah.
is actually, this is the
Democratizing investments. Right.
Actually, this is the rationale of the stock market, in general.
Exactly.
Stock market in general, how to allow like those who earns like £5,000 to invest like the big businessman who owns millions and millions and millions. So both have access to invest their money and make wealth out of it. And also, if I can say so, like I can buy shares, I earn from the future earnings of the company. I'm being a shareholder, I'm aware of what's going on. But again, from the company, or sorry, from the country perspective, either on the economic level and on the social level, it's creating a lot of, it contributes a lot of positivity in terms of, as you mentioned, it's the largest IPO. Actually, the market size, market capitalization, it was diminishing along, like, if we can say, along the last 10 years.
Since 2008, basically.
Actually, yes. Actually, since 2008, like the market cap has been shrinking one
Right.
year after another. Now I think we stand at around the 700 billion, you know, like 50 plus billion US dollar, if we can say so, which is
Modest.
which is very low. Actually, it's not modest. Actually, if we have
Trying to be diplomatic.
No, okay. No, like, again, actually, this is the potential in the market. Like, this is what they call the Warren Buffett rule. They compare the market cap to the total GDP of an economy, and they say, like, for example, the same Egyptian stock market back in 2007, the market capitalization of the stock market represents 110 of the size of our GDP.
110%.
110%, exactly.
In 2007.
In 2007. You might feel very sad that in 2021, that the market cap stands only at 12% of our GDP, because the GDP kept expanding while the market cap kept shrinking.
And you
What
can
about-
also see it in the number of investors in the stock
A
market.
number of investors, number of companies, you name it.
Right.
Like everything, okay? So, but what about this Warren Buffett rule? If we can say that, again, like the lower the ratio, the more the upside.
The more the potential.
The more the upside potential in this stock market. And like the higher the ratio, so the less.
Right.
So again, as you said, in 2008, so I referred to 2007 levels. Now we are at one of the lowest levels ever. So definitely you need a lot of issues to be listed in the market, a lot of companies to be issued in the company. And actually starting by the small names won't bring any investors. You know, you want big names, you want big companies, big market capitalization. What does this do to the market? as simple as this. The Egyptian stock market with the current market cap, it doesn't reach the minimum threshold that make the international investors, international mutual funds look at the market. No, the market is too small to invest in. It's too illiquid. So bringing such a company definitely will lift up the market
Attracts
cap
attention.
tremendously, definitely, and make our market investable to these mutual funds. And it will not just be this company. It will be a trigger for other big companies to come and list, especially if the IPO was successful. So everybody will get encouraged to list and to go for an IPO. There is another important aspect from a socio-economic point of view. If the new administrative capital is listed, then they have to abide to the listing rules, to disclosures,
Governance.
corporate governance. So definitely, it's like, if I can say so, like the shareholder or the shareholder assembly or the general assembly of the company, it's like an authority. They can they can claim the management for not being efficient. The management will step on their toes. I need to deliver what I promised. I cannot say like my budget is to do 1, 2, 3, and I fail to, because the market will punish. Not the market will punish in stock prices. So definitely it's for the best for the company. It's for the best for the whole country. How to enhance the corporate governance, especially.
Let me take from what you mentioned and try to give an example, a practical example. And here one would go back a few months to look at the listing of the Saudi, the huge national company Aramco. Talk to us about the benefits and what happened in that listing, and how did this position that country's capital market and made it more competitive and attractive?
Well, as you're aware, like Aramco is not only the largest company in Saudi Arabia. Actually, it's the largest across the world.
Right.
Okay, and there has been talks for years. Every stock market in the world was trying to attract the IPO of Aramco, including New York Stock Exchange, London. There was like a big fight and competition among many stock markets to list, and it was a very smart decision from the Saudi government. Well, I'll list it in the Saudi stock market, not in the New York Stock Exchange. However, the company size, as I said, is huge. So they listed only 5% of the company. Or actually, they IPO'd only. They listed the company, but they IPO'd only.
So
they
if you have 100% of shares, they just listed 5% of those shares in the market.
Exactly. But because like such company, there is no enough liquidity to absorb, like if we float like 30-40% from the Saudi market. But if you can look at the Saudi market, how it performed after Aramco, the liquidity in the market, everything is multiplied by 3-4. Everything, if I can say so. And by the way, Aramco came at the end of the full list of IPOs that took place in the Saudi market. There is no single bank in Saudi market in the Saudi economy that is not listed in the market. Even NCB, that was like it's called like the government or the royal
national bank
or the royal bank. So not a single bank. So I mean, like because sometimes when we say Bank du Caire that we have been waiting for ages now to come, like it's big. Bank du Caire is not big compared to NCB and this. And
so
this
the
bank.
depth. It created a depth in the market. It created more investment.
It attracted a lot more investors, locally and internationally, because it brings money. Like everybody, like every Saudi wanted to invest in Aramco. Aramco for them is like an icon. So everybody wants to invest in Aramco.
So this would be the case for the new administrative capital.
Definitely, it's the case for such an issue. Definitely, if you can look at the Saudi market liquidity, as I mentioned, number of investors, even the returns. Sometimes when they do some money from the IPO in Aramco, they don't withdraw their money back. They try to find, well, I like it. Well, let's try to find another opportunity in the market. That's why the Saudi market performers is the top performer during these times, during 2021. Top performer across the region. And it has been performing extremely well throughout the pandemic and throughout the few months from 2021.
Would this bring back to the scene the investment opportunity that was presented in the expansion of the Suez Canal, the certificates that were issued?
I think
The spirit, the socio-economic spirit.
I think this is one of the, if I can say, one of the triggers of such message. I think this is one of the triggers for the government, because when the people they tie up with an idea from a national point of view, they love to be part of it. And if it's return oriented, then what other thing I would love to, I'm making money, I'm making good money, and yet I'm serving a nationwide objective. A nationwide objective. So exactly what happened. Suez Canal money, 64 billion in few days.
$8 billion at the time.
Not giving 15%. It's not giving a discount to if I put my money in the bank. So it's as premium. So the same will happen for the new administrative capital. And not only this, I mean we had an IPO program from the government that included 23 companies that has been on hold for the last 3 years. No one denies the tremendous economic reform that took place in Egypt since November 2016. And it's very clear on all the macro indicators, all the KPIs. Honestly speaking, the country is in a totally different position.
Right.
If we look at all the international reports, if we look at all the rating agencies, if we look at everybody talking about Egypt, I deal with foreign investors everywhere, and I know how they are looking to Egypt.
Success story.
It's they call it simply the darling of emerging markets.
The darling
of emerging markets. So, they would love to invest in Egypt. But honestly speaking, generally speaking, when you're trying to regain the confidence of the international community, so people will try to see how sticky you are to your economic reform. So they will try you in the short-term investments, safe investments somehow. So they try you in the treasury bills. They got more confident with you. They will get also in a sort of a safe investment, but for longer term. So they go to your Euro bonds, which is long, which is what we see. Our 30-year Euro bond is always covered 3-4 times. 30-year, people are lending Egypt dollars for 30 years, and it's oversubscribed 3-4 times every time, and at very, very good rates. They gain more confidence, then they will try you in your local currency debt. And this is what happened. You can see that we have almost close to $30 billion investment in our local debt market, as the report mentioned. If they got more excited, they will come to the stock market. But to come to the stock market, there has to be something in this. What should I buy in the stock market? I will not go buy only one company which is large enough. Okay, you have the real estate developers, if you can say, the largest of them is 14 billion Egyptian pound, which is less
than $100 million.
Less than $1 billion.
$1 billion.
If you can imagine. So this is not Egypt, if I can say. If I can say.
So what needs to be done to make this IPO attractive and successful?
As simple as this. We have two sides. Supply and demand. The supply is the company, is the shares of this company. Can I ask you a question? If I wear your hat, please.
I'll take off my hat and I'll wear the other one.
Please. Can I convince you by something that I don't do myself?
No.
I have to buy into my story so that I can sell it to you, right? So I have to be the first buyer. So we can see that all the government entities, quasi-government entities, all the asset owners in Egypt, whether public, whether private, all of them, they had exposure in the stock market. But how big is this exposure? That little. Maybe 1%, less than 1%. It was standing at 1% 10 years ago. These asset owners, their balance sheets, they expanded at least 5, 6, 7 times, but they didn't rebalance. they kept their exposure. So now it will be below 0.5%. So first, you have to buy into the story, and you have to be return oriented, not like a sort of support or that I want. No, you have to be with the return objective in front of your eyes. You have to believe in the economic reform that took place and how lucrative it is. If you have the offering and you stimulate the local demand that comes from the large asset owners in Egypt, and I don't want to name them, definitely you will stimulate the local investors, the normal people in the street. When this happens, definitely you will be eye-catchy to everyone across the world.
All right. So first, believe in your story. Number two.
Number two, that the local asset owners, the local institutions, they have to increase their exposure in the stock market. They have to rebalance at least to the old levels pre-2011, to pre-2011, and definitely with some good awareness about the company.
Awareness. How about telling the story? How do you tell the story? You mentioned the major success that happened in the Egyptian economic reform program. Do we need to tell the story in more depth, in a more attractive way, if you will?
Let's say not more depth, but more simplified way. Like I want, so that everyone believes in your story. Not everybody is with an economic background. So you have to tell the story like in slang, like you say it in the normal world. You have to relate it to things. Like I heard you mentioning about the electricity blackout that were taking place. How does this?
Right.
So you have to translate this into real life examples, if I can say so. So definitely, people has to know what really happened. I think there are efforts to be done. There are efforts already taking place in this, but it's coming from the very, very high level. But we need it to be like spread, and to be spoken by many layers, many lower layers as well. Because actually what happened, did you see how Egypt reacted to the COVID? The COVID and the lockdown that took place? Did you see how developed countries, like in the Western countries, they were not finding the basic needs?
Basic supplies, they couldn't find basic supplies.
They were not there. Did we face this in Egypt?
No.
We didn't. If we didn't have the reform and already have our muscles during the pandemic, we would have been in a very tough situation. So we are lucky that we started 3-4 years ahead of the pandemic. So now you're ready to fly. You are the only economy that is scoring a positive GDP growth. You are expecting 5 plus GDP growth consistently for the next 5 years. Where can I find a story like Egypt? But again, what I see is very, very, very important in attracting foreign investments into equities. Because when they come to equities, they will come to the liquid equities, which is the stock market, so that you reach your ultimate goal from all what we are doing, which is the direct investments.
Long-term
direct investments.
Right.
Nobody will come, as we said, bills, Eurobonds, local currency bonds, stock market, FDIs. This is the sequence. Nothing will step before this. So we have been trying to attract FDIs for the last few years, but it didn't come. Why? Because it still didn't flow through the pipe. So it has to reach the stock market first.
Do you think there's more attention being paid to the stock market now?
Yes, definitely.
Especially after the president's statements talking about listing the new administration.
This is what I wanted to mention. Like if the president himself is talking about the stock market, then definitely it comes on the priority of the agenda. But again, we want the executionability of this, because the president is not the one to execute. He's giving direction, guidance. So we want the executionability.
But the message is clear.
The message is clear, yes. But I mean, there are a lot of, if I can say, homework.
Details.
Yes, homework to be done so that we prepare such a big company like the administrative, let's say I need to prepare the ecosystem, if I can say it in that way. I need to get the ecosystem prepared. By the way, I don't think the IPO will take place before 2 years or something like this. So we have time. We have time to do things properly.
All right. Now you have
Can I
around
add
20...
one thing about the ecosystem?
Please.
First thing, clear message about the ecosystem. Changing a regulation is not a good thing for markets.
You
have
need
to have
consistent.
Yes, you have to have consistent. So we have one issue that has been putting the stock market on the hold. That was one of the main reasons to put the stock market on the hold for the last few years, which is the capital gain taxes that was launched, like I don't remember when, 2013 or something like this. And definitely it's a killer to the market. You want to live and you're killing yourself and shooting yourself in your own foot by enforcing capital gain tax. And then it was deferred for some time, and then it was deferred for another time that will end in 31st of December 2021. So now it's the right time to announce ahead that there is no way, I'm thinking, and you cancel it, not just defer it. Okay, to cancel the capital gain tax, because this is not anywhere in developing and emerging markets. You're trying to compete with other markets that are trying to give incentives to people to come and invest, not to put more burdens on them.
So you need stable, consistent regulations
And encouraging
regulations.
regulation.
Because what you're going to gain from taxes is way below what you will gain by attracting more investors into your market. Is my understanding correct?
100%. Actually, they applied it for 6 months. What happened? The market did like this.
Shrunk.
They were not, yes, of course, and they were not able to implement it properly. So you are losing everything. You gain a lot more from companies expanding and doing more operation and earnings and pay proper income taxes. This is where you earn.
Because you're providing funding for companies in order to expand, in order to grow, in order to increase their productivity, thus increase their labor
activity,
force.
VAT, labor force,
Exactly.
everything. So the bigger picture is much, much, much more important than looking at a very tiny issue.
Do you think now there will be more receptivity to this fact?
Actually, it's one of the most important points to be raised at the highest level ever, even to the president level, not only to the tax authority or something like this, because actually this is like a really stopper to anything that can happen.
There are 23 IPOs on the back burner for some years now.
Yes.
Should one say it would be more advisable to wait for a major IPO and then go ahead with the 23 IPOs, or those are not related?
There are big IPOs in this 23 list. There is Bank Ducaire, there is Mr. Life Insurance, there is Alexandria
Big government
Containers.
companies.
There is Abou for investment, which is a huge company. More floating from it's already listed, but more floating, more shares of it, and especially in the urea euphoria that is taking place,
Right.
that is taking place globally.
Fertilizer sector.
Yes, exactly, the fertilizers. So there are big names in these 23 names. So
those should not be related.
actually, it's a good starter before the big meal.
Appetizers.
Yes, exactly. Yes, appetizer for the big meal.
All right. Now, as a re-elected board member, what are the priorities, 1, 2, 3, for the upcoming board?
For the board.
For the board.
Not for myself.
For the board.
Okay. I think we are lucky that the same executive managements were renewed as well.
The chairman.
The chairman and the vice chairman.
Right.
And the good thing is that so they passed through a lot in the last 4 years. So it was not an easy term, if I can say so. A lot of challenges. So now they understand inside out what's needed to be done. Again, with the elected board members, and I'm so happy with the elected and the appointed as well. Actually, it's a very good board. I think that we have a very good chance to implement what we want to do. So actually, what the board wants to do is simple as this: number of listings, and there was a meeting yesterday between the EGX chairman and the prime minister to address this, stimulating again the buy side and the demand side. The awareness that the stock market did already, stock exchange did, the marketing campaign and something like this. And the one most important thing is how to attract people to invest and to incremental investing through stock market, either directly or through mutual funds. I think this comes on top.
Institutional investors?
In stimulating the institution, definitely. I know this is not the role of the stock exchange normally, but actually we are in a position that we have to do this. But actually, one very important aspect is like working on to ensure the smooth work flow in the organization and no stoppage in like trading, and you have always top-notch technology. Because stock exchanges are mainly technology platforms, and you are a technology provider, actually, if I can say so. And you have also some regulatory authority, so some kind of like the surveillance, the disclosures. So you have to ensure how market is efficient
and capitalize on the new momentum.
Exactly.
Mr. Ahmed Abou Saad, re-elected board member of the Egyptian Stock Exchange. A pleasure having you on the show here tonight.
Thank you
very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Pleasure being with you all. Thanks for watching.